My name is Pansy J. Fordyce. I'm 30 years old, and up until 3 months ago, I honestly believed I had my life figured out. Not in a perfect, fairy tale way, but in the steady way that makes you exhale when you come home at night. I had a good apartment, a career I was proud of, friends who knew my coffee order, and a fiancé named Brandon Vale, who I thought loved me in the quiet, dependable way people love when they are building a future. Brandon and I had been together for 4 years. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, both of us laughing over burned hot dogs, terrible jokes, and cheap beer sweating in plastic cups. He was charming without trying too hard, handsome in a clean, easy way, and ambitious enough to make me believe we were heading somewhere. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. By the next New Year's Eve, surrounded by champagne, noise, and everyone we loved, he took my hand after midnight and asked me to marry him. I said yes through happy tears because I thought I was saying yes to the rest of my life. The wedding was set for October. We had booked the venue, chosen the photographer, and sent out save the dates. I had a folder on my laptop labeled Forever, full of seating charts, flower ideas, and little notes about vows. I was too embarrassed to show him yet. We had routines that made ordinary life feel sacred. Sunday morning pancakes, Thursday night takeout, inside jokes so stupid they could make us laugh until we were breathless. I thought we were solid. I thought we were safe. Everything fell apart on a Tuesday evening. I remember that because I had just come home from the gym around 6, still in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, sitting on the couch and scrolling through my phone. Brandon usually worked late, sometimes until 7 or 8. So when the front door opened at 6:30, I looked up surprised. He came in wearing his office shirt, but his tie was loose, his face pale, and his eyes had that wet, frightened shine people get before delivering bad news. My first thought was that something had happened to his parents. My second was that he had been fired. He dropped his bag by the door and didn't even take off his shoes. He just stood there staring at me for several seconds, like he was memorizing the room before it turned into something else. Then he walked over and sat in the armchair across from me, not beside me on the couch where he always sat. That should have been my first clue. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And this won't be easy for you." My stomach tightened. "Okay, what's going on? Are you all right?" He took a deep breath. His hands were shaking on his knees. "I've been seeing someone else." For a moment, the room didn't move. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. A car passed outside. Somewhere upstairs, a child laughed. I heard the words, but my mind refused to accept them. "You've been what?" I asked. "I've been having an affair," he said, and his voice cracked. "For about 7 months now. 7 months. My body went cold before my heart even understood. 7 months meant April. His birthday. The surprise party I had spent weeks planning. His parents had come, his sister had come, his cousins, his coworkers, everyone. I had ordered his favorite cake, hidden decorations in my closet, and cried quietly in the bathroom because I was so proud of making him happy. And apparently, while I was doing that, he already belonged halfway to someone else. "Who?" I asked. My voice sounded flat, almost unfamiliar. "Her name is Clara," he whispered. "Clara Mitchell. She's in marketing." The name hit something old in my memory. Clara, the ex-girlfriend he had once described as complicated. The woman he said he barely spoke to anymore. The one who had apparently become a ghost, living inside my relationship. He started crying then. Real tears. Or at least convincing ones. "I'm sorry, Pansy, I never meant for it to happen. We started talking again at work and then it just became more. I think I fell in love with her." I stared at him. Not because I had nothing to say, but because there were too many things inside me trying to speak at once. "You think," I repeated. He flinched. "I know how that sounds." "No," I said, standing slowly. "I don't think you do." He looked up at me like he wanted me to comfort him. Like his confession had wounded him too. I was confused. "I still love you," I didn't know how to tell you. You didn't know how to tell me, so you kept letting me plan our wedding? His mouth opened, then closed. You let me talk about houses, kids, honeymoon flights. You let me sit across from your mother and discuss table linens while you were sneaking around with your ex-girlfriend? It wasn't that simple. I laughed then, but it came out sharp and hollow. It never is when the liar has to explain it. He rubbed his face. I just need time to figure out what I really want. That sentence did something strange to me. It didn't break me. It steadied me. Something inside my chest went silent, like a door locking. Get out, I said. His head snapped up. What? Get out of my apartment. Pansy, come on, we need to talk about this like adults. No, adults don't spend 7 months lying to someone they're supposed to marry. He stood, panic rising in his face. You can't just throw away 4 years. I didn't. I walked into the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, and began throwing his clothes into it. Shirts, socks, shaving cream, the cologne I had bought him last Christmas. He followed me, voice rising, begging, arguing, then blaming the pressure of the wedding, the confusion, the history with Clara. I didn't answer. When the bag was full, I shoved it into his arms. Go stay with her. Or your sister, or your parents, I don't care. But you are not staying here tonight. He stood in the doorway, crying now, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. You're being cruel, he said. No, I replied. I'm being awake. When the door finally slammed behind him, the apartment became unbearably quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed we used to share, staring at the space where his shoes had always been, and stayed there until 3 a.m. But what Brandon didn't know was that the woman he left in that room wasn't the same woman he had lied to. That woman was gone. The next few days did not feel like days. They felt like one long, airless hallway I could not find my way out of. I called in sick to work on Wednesday and Thursday, and told my boss I had food poisoning. In a way, it was true. Something toxic had gotten inside me, and I could feel it poisoning every memory I had once called beautiful. I could not eat. I slept in pieces, 1 hour here, 20 minutes there. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brandon's face across from me in that armchair. I heard him say Clara's name. I heard him say he had fallen in love with her, like love was a weather event that had happened to him and not a choice he had made every single day for 7 months. My best friend, Mira, showed up Thursday afternoon, after I ignored her texts for nearly 2 days. She had a spare key for emergencies, and apparently this counted. She found me still wearing the same sweatshirt from Tuesday, sitting on the living room floor with an untouched glass of water beside me. She did not ask me if I was okay. She knew better. She ordered pizza, made me shower, changed the sheets, and sat cross-legged on the floor while I told her everything. When I got to the part where Brandon said he needed time to figure out what he wanted, her face went still. He wants you quiet, she said. I looked at her. He confessed because he wanted control of the story, she continued, not because he respected you. At first, I did not want to believe that. I wanted one tiny part of him to still be decent. But on Friday afternoon, while trying to separate our photos from our shared cloud account, I found the folder that killed the last gentle thing I had left for him. It was titled C with a little heart emoji. My hands went cold as I opened it. There were pictures, dozens of them. Brandon and Clara at restaurants I recognized, places I had suggested for date nights and he had claimed were too expensive or too crowded. Brandon and Clara at the beach during a weekend he told me was a work retreat. Brandon and Clara in hotel mirrors, tangled in white sheets, smiling like people who had nothing to hide. Then there were screenshots of messages, saved like trophies, hundreds of them. They talked about their future together. They talked about me like I was furniture that still needed to be moved out of the house. In one message from June, Clara wrote, "A few more months, and you'll be free. Then we can stop pretending." Brandon replied, "I know. I hate lying to her. But I can't leave yet. She already paid the deposits, and I don't want everything to turn into a financial disaster before October. I read that sentence again and again. Before October. So the wedding was not a promise anymore. It was a deadline. I was not his fiancé. I was a budget problem. Another message from July said, Pansy is good to me, but she doesn't make me feel alive the way you do. I sat very still for a long time after that. Then I began taking screenshots. Every photo. Every message. Every charge. Every date. By Monday morning, grief had become something colder and more useful. The apartment was mine. I had bought it 2 years earlier with money from my grandmother's estate. Brandon had moved in later, contributed to groceries and utilities, but legally he had no claim to it. The wedding contracts were in my name because I had handled the planning. The credit card we used for wedding expenses was technically mine, with him as an authorized user, and Brandon had used it to fund the affair. Nice dinners, hotel stays, weekend trips, nearly $4,000 over 7 months, all sitting there in black and white. I called a lawyer. She told me to document everything, remove his access, change the locks, and stay calm. Calm, she said, would protect me better than rage. So I became calm. By Wednesday, Brandon was removed from every shared account. The locks were changed. The joint wedding card was canceled. I called the venue, the photographer, and the caterer. Because we were still more than 6 months out, I got about 60% of the deposits back. Nearly $8,000 returned to my account. Then I called Brandon. He had been staying with his sister and had texted several times asking if we could talk. I told him to meet me Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop near her place. He arrived looking hopeful. That was the part that almost made me laugh. He had shaved, fixed his hair, and worn the navy sweater I once told him, made his eyes look softer. He leaned toward me like he expected tears. Maybe forgiveness, maybe a dramatic conversation where I fought for him. Thank you for meeting me, he said, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. His smile faded. I canceled the wedding, I said. The color drained from his face. You what? The venue, the photographer, the caterer, everything. You can't do that without talking to me. I can. My name was on the contracts. Pansy, that was our wedding. No, I said. It was my money attached to your lie. I slid a manila folder across the table. He stared at it before opening it, like some part of him already knew. Inside were printed copies of the photos, the messages, and a detailed breakdown of every charge he made on the wedding card for Clara. His hands began to shake. Where did you get this? He whispered. You left yourself logged into our shared cloud. Sloppy. His eyes filled with panic now, not sadness. That difference mattered. You're going to pay me back the $4,000 you spent on her, I said. If you don't, I'll file a report and send this folder to everyone who thinks you're just confused. Your parents, your coworkers, our friends, Clara's workplace, anyone you made me smile in front of while you were humiliating me behind my back. He looked around the coffee shop embarrassed. You're threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. You're being cruel. I leaned closer. No, Brandon. Cruel was letting me try on wedding dresses while you were planning your exit with your ex-girlfriend. He had no answer. I stood, left money on the table for my coffee, and walked out before my hands could start shaking. Brandon paid me back in full within 10 days. 2 payments. $2,500 first, then $1,500. I never asked where he got it. Part of me suspected Clara helped him, which would have been funny if the entire thing had not been so pathetic. Then came the real twist. 3 weeks later, I got a message from a man I did not know. His name was Lawrence Mitchell, and his message said, I think we need to talk about Clara and Brandon. I called him immediately. Clara was married. She had been married for 6 years. She and Lawrence had 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Brandon had no idea. Clara had told him she was divorced and that her ex-husband was unstable. All lies. Lawrence had found out when Clara got careless with her phone. He found Brandon's messages, then found me through social media. We met for coffee 2 days later and compared notes like two survivors of the same storm standing on opposite sides of the wreckage. He was filing for divorce and wanted custody. He asked if he could use my evidence folder. I sent him everything. Then I forwarded Lawrence's contact information to Brandon with one sentence. "Thought you should know who you fell in love with." He never replied. I heard later through mutual friends that Brandon confronted Clara at the office and made a scene so public that security had to walk him out. Clara's marriage collapsed. Brandon's reputation at work did not survive the attention either. Apparently, the company started looking into time records, expense reports, and the many afternoons he and Clara had disappeared together. He was fired 3 days later. It has been 3 months now since everything exploded. Brandon moved out of state to stay with family after things with Clara ended badly. He tried to reach me once through a mutual friend, asking if I would be willing to talk. I declined. There was nothing left for him to explain. As for me, I am doing better than I thought I would. The first month was brutal. I will not dress that up. I cried in grocery store aisles. I slept with the hallway light on. I deleted wedding emails one by one, like pulling glass from my skin. But around week 6, I woke up and realized the apartment was quiet in a way that no longer scared me. It was mine. The bed was mine. The mornings were mine. I did not have to wonder where he was, who he was texting, or whether I was being compared to a woman he claimed made him feel alive. I started therapy. I went back to the gym. I reconnected with friends I had slowly drifted away from while making room for Brandon's life. I even went on 2 dates last month. Nothing serious, just coffee. Just proof that I could sit across from a man and not feel broken. The wedding would have been last weekend. Instead, I went hiking with Mira and 2 other friends. The air was cold, the trail was muddy, and when we reached the overlook, I stood there looking at the city below and realized I had not thought about Brandon all morning. That felt like progress. I do not know if closure is real. Maybe it is not a door that shuts all at once. Maybe it is just 1,000 small moments where the past loses its grip. I was lied to. I was used. I was humiliated by someone I trusted with my future. But I survived. And the life I am building now has one beautiful thing my old life never truly had. It is honest.